All right, hello everybody. KVUE Chief Meteorologist Hunter Williams. We continue to watch Hurricane Milton, which is back to Category 5 strength after briefly last night and this morning weakening down to a Category 4 storm. We're watching this from afar here in Central Texas. This is not going to have any impact on our Texas or Central Texas forecast, but for our friends in Florida, of course, this storm is going to be a big deal. So let's get into the latest here. Max winds as we record this, 7 o'clock numbers Tuesday evening. Winds are at 165. That's Cat 5. Pressure has decreased again, and it is at 902 millibars. At its strongest point last night, that pressure amazingly was actually sub 900 millibars. And just to show you where this is positioned in the Gulf, it's been just north of the Yucatan Peninsula. It is now taking that northeast trajectory towards the west coast of Florida. But again, here in Texas, this will have no impact on our forecast whatsoever. Here is the intensity trend over the past several days. We had initially that explosive intensification where it went from a Category 1 to a Cat 5 in less than 24 hours. Just amazing. It went through what we call an eyewall replacement cycle. So the inner workings of the storm had to reorganize a little bit. So it weakened, went to a Cat 4, now back up to a Cat 5. But one of the things to note when a storm goes through an eyewall replacement cycle, it can temporarily weaken. But what happens over the long term is the area that has hurricane force winds can expand. So maybe the winds come down in intensity, but once it reorganizes, you have a larger wind field. And then in this case, sometimes it could start to re-intensify again. So the area that's affected by hurricane force winds is obviously very important as the storm ultimately will move into Florida here late tomorrow night into Thursday morning. How does this rank historically compared to some of the other strongest storms on record for the Atlantic Basin? When we say Atlantic Basin, that is the Caribbean, the Gulf, the Atlantic Ocean. Strongest on record in the Atlantic Basin was Hurricane Allen, 1980, 190 mile per hour winds. Then you have a few storms that have been at 185, including Dorian and Wilma, which you may remember. Then you have 3 that are at 180, Mitch and Rita and Irma. And then you go to Milton, 180 mile per hour winds at its strongest point yesterday. As of now, in terms of wind speed, that ties for the 6th strongest hurricane on record in the Atlantic Basin, which is pretty remarkable. So here's the forecast cone. A little bit of good news. We don't say this to lessen the severity or to say that people shouldn't take this seriously, far from it, but this storm will weaken as it approaches land. We do not expect this to be a Category 5. It will start to encounter a little bit of wind shear, and it's expected to move onshore late Wednesday night into Thursday morning as a Category 3 storm, winds around 125. Then it goes down to a 2, and it's still a Category 1 as it will move off the east coast of Florida. Looks like late Thursday. Then ultimately the storm will pass back into the open Atlantic. Looks like it will ultimately weaken and become more of a remnant system at that point. Here's our graph computer model, the in-house model that we show a lot, and it's done pretty well with these storms. As of now, this model has the track a little bit north of what the centerline track from the Hurricane Center is showing. Again, there's still some wiggle room in the exact area it moves on shore. This particular model takes it basically directly into Tampa Bay. But where exactly the storm moves on shore is important, especially with regards to the storm surge. Right where the core moves on shore and to the south in this case, that's going to be where the worst of the storm surge is, because for maximum storm surge impacts, you need the onshore flow to push that water onshore to give you that water inundation. So here's the latest storm surge forecast, the peak storm surge forecast from the Hurricane Center. And again, if you live in Florida, we're watching this from afar here in Texas, so I'm just giving kind of an overview. If you live in Florida, if you're in an area that will be impacted by this storm, we recommend you check in with local media. We make sure you get the most updated information. But for our purposes here, 10 to 15 feet of storm surge is possible from Tampa Bay down to the south. And if the storm maybe tracks a little bit farther south, not a guarantee, but if it were to do that, then those core storm surge impacts would go south with it. Again, where the core moves on shore, and on the south side, that's where you're going to get that strongest onshore push and the strongest storm surge. So down to Fort Myers, 8 to 12 feet of storm surge is in the forecast. I think that's going to be one of the core impacts in addition to all the classic tropical stuff that you expect. The inland wind threat, hurricane force winds are expected. Inland flood threat is going to be there as well. But storm surge is going to be a huge story along the coast. So that's what we have for you with Hurricane Milton, Category 5. We're waiting on the 10 o'clock numbers. We will keep you posted here at KVUE as we watch the storm from afar here in Texas. And of course, our thoughts are with all those in Florida who will be impacted by this storm.